As the dawn rises above the Las Vegas skyline, Randy Howard, a guest at the MGM Grand Hotel, sleeps off the after effects of a night indulging in the city, roused by a clamor outside his room and a chorus of sirens on the street. Unbeknownst to him and almost all other guests, a deadly fire is tearing through the hotel. As he comes to his senses, he realizes he's in a deadly trap.
Welcome back to our show. This is host Jockeys Unite, and today's show we're going to be talking about the MGM Grand Hotel. My name is Chris, and this is my co-host Jay.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Good.
Before we get started off, I found out some news this afternoon. 4 firefighters from a local department here where we live was injured when a roof collapsed. So we want to send out thoughts and prayers to them for quick recovery and back on the job soon.
Cool. So Joe, what you got today?
Well, like you said, we're going to discuss the MGM Grand Fire, point out some of the things that caused the fire codes to change. See, I've said it once, I'll say it probably till the day I die. Unless things change, the fire service is reactive instead of being proactive. And they really need to turn that around to where they are more or less preparing for the worst now before it happens to prevent it from happening. I mean, yeah, I know it's kind of like it's crazy to think about it, but trial and error. But something needs to change, and
Right, sure.
And we're the only ones that can do it.
Okay.
So, you got anything before we dive into this?
No, not off the top of my head. I think I'm good right now.
Okie doke, folks. Well, sit back, get you something to drink, head for the hills because it is showtime. Again, it was the MGM Grand Hotel fire.
1980.
And the fire, I was just going to say, the date was November 21st, 1980. And the venue, again, was the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino. It was in Paradise, Nevada. It was a structure fire. The cause of it was electrical ground fault caused by an electrical receptacle. And we'll get into that a little bit more in depth here shortly. 85 people in total lost their life. It was 78 guests and 7 employees. And the non-fatal injuries was around 600. Again, the fire occurred on Friday, November 21st, 1980 at the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino, which is now known as the Horseshoe Las Vegas. I guess they needed that for luck. I don't know.
I thought they changed it to Bally's, but I could be wrong.
Well, they did. They changed it to Bally's, and then they changed it to, when it was sold again, to Horseshoe Las Vegas.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
The fire killed 85 people, most through smoke inhalation. The fire began from a refrigerated pastry display. It was like a refrigerated case in one of the restaurants located on the first floor. The fire engulfed the resort's casino area, and smoke traveled up into the hotel tower.
Now, that pastry case, from what I saw, was attached to a separate cooling unit, and it had a pipe that ran from the cooling unit to the pastry case, and the vibration on that pipe rubbed the wires raw and
Exactly.
caused the short circuit.
Exactly. It was basically a fire in the making from the day it was installed. Let's see. The tragedy remains the deadliest disaster in Nevada history, and the third deadliest hotel fire in modern U.S. history. after the 1946 Winecroft Hotel fire in Atlanta that killed 119 people, and the 1986 DuPont Plaza Hotel fire in Puerto Rico that killed 97. The incident led to the reformation of fire safety guidelines and codes in the state. Now we're going to get into more the fire aspect of it. So, at the time of the fire, about 5,000 people were in the MGM Grand and Casino, which is a 26-story hotel with more than 2,000 hotel rooms. At the time this motel was built, it was boasted as being the largest hotel resort in the world. So that was 1970, I believe it was, when it was built. See, at approximately 7:07 a.m. on Friday, November 21st, a fire began in the restaurant known as the Deli. The fire was discovered during an inspection of the restaurant by a tile crew. The crew supervisor noticed a flickering light, which turned out to be a wall of flames. MGM security was immediately advised of the situation and alerted the Clark County Fire Department, which was the first agency to respond, receiving a call reporting the fire at 7:17 a.m., with the first engine arriving on site from across the street at 7:19 a.m. A third alarm was eventually called at 7:22, and the Metro Police helicopter pilot requested all available helicopters at 7:30 a.m. Now we'll get into why that was done here in just a second. Other agencies included the North Las Vegas Fire Department, Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, and the Henderson Fire Department. A massive helicopter rescue effort from Nellis Air Force Base pulled 1,000 people from the roof of the MGM Grand, involving both U.S. Air Force and police helicopters. The fire spread to the lobby, fed by wallpaper, PVC piping, glue, and plastic mirrors, racing west through the casino floor at a speed of 15 to 19 feet per second, which actually translates into 10 to 13 miles per hour.
Right.
Until a massive fireball blew out the main entrance facing the Las Vegas Strip. From the time the fire was noticed, it took 6 minutes for the entire casino floor to be fully involved, and it spread across the areas of the casino in which no fire sprinklers were installed. 18 people died in the casino level of the hotel. Now, here's where we get into where the helicopters come in. The fire was limited only to the first floor, but the burning material created toxic fumes and smoke which ascended throughout the hotel tower via vertical shafts, elevator stairwells, seismic joints, things such as that. That caused the majority of the deaths. Approximately 350 firefighters responded to the fire, and some reported having to crawl through the dark and over, quote, mounds of stuff, end quote, trying to extinguish the fire. It was later determined that the mounds of stuff were deceased guests and staff near the elevator bank.
Bodies, yeah.
Yeah. The Las Vegas Fire Department operated separately from the county fire department. The latter served the Los Angeles Strip. So city firefighters were unfamiliar with the MGM Grand's layout, including fire escape routes, and this hindered rescue efforts tremendously. Now, the proper evacuation of the hotel guests was also hindered, as there was no automatic means of returning elevators to the main floor during the fire, causing 10 deceased victims to be found in an elevator. Some hotel guests tied bed sheets together and hung them off the balconies to alert the firefighters. Some tried using the bed sheets to descend the hotel's exterior. Now, ladder trucks, as we all know, unless you got one of the Bronto sky lifts. The best you're gonna do is the
Nine,
ninth floor,
nine floor, yes. Nine floors, yeah.
10th floor if you're lucky. Uh, so the fire department ladders, wasn't able to reach the people up on the upper floors. Now here's an interesting story. There was one man that was in town and was doing did rock climbing and all like that as a recreational hobby. He had his ropes and rappel gear in his room, and he tied off to the balcony and rappelled down to the ground floor. So I guess it was kind of lucky for him, huh?
Talk about tying knots under stress.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what is it? Rabbit goes up out of the hole around behind what's that thing he goes behind? Yeah, tree.
Tree,
Yeah,
yep.
that's it.
Oh crap!
Oh, damn, we went around the bush. Wrong way. Okay. Now, some people trapped in their hotel rooms broke open the windows to let fresh air in. Although this allowed thicker smoke from outside to come into the rooms, uh, people below had to dodge shards of glass falling from broken hotel windows. Now, it was reported that that they wasn't breaking out just a pane or whatnot; they were taking out the whole window. And there was firefighters on one of the aerial apparatus that one of these whole panes of glass fell on. Uh, so, see, an expansion of the MGM was underway at the time of the fire, and a construction worker used a scaffolding platform to lower guests to the ground after they had escaped through their hotel room windows. The Barbary Coast Casino across the street was set up as an evacuation center for MGM guests. Now, a total of 85 people were killed, including 78 guests and 7 employees, like we stated before. 75 people died from smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide poisoning. Four of them were smoke inhalation alone, 3 of them from burns and smoke inhalation, 1 from burns alone, 1 from heart attack, and 1 from massive skull trauma caused by a fall while she was attempting to escape the fire. Now, here's the thing. I watched a documentary on it, and as we all know, I'm a documentary buff. Some of the rooms that they found these victims in, there wasn't any kind of smoke staining, no kind of soot, nothing. The victims looked like they were asleep in bed, which they were before they died. Now, here's the kicker. They took the air vent covers off, and the air filters was black as tar from where it was filtering out the smoke, but it didn't filter out the carbon monoxide.
Yeah, particulates are too small.
Exactly. So, I mean, that to look at that and see the air filter I was like stunned because I'd never seen that before.
Right.
While the fire primarily damaged the casino floor, approximately 64 deaths occurred on the upper levels of the hotel, mostly from the 20th to the 25th floors, where the smoke concentration was the highest. 2 refrigerated semi-trailers were set up as a temporary morgue to hold the bodies of the victims until they could be identified. Now, couldn't you imagine having to carry a deceased victim and just put them in a truck?
Yeah.
I mean, that's, no dignity or anything like that. Just throw them up in the truck. The number of injuries was reported as being around 600. Approximately 35 firefighters sought medical care, and 15 of them were hospitalized for periods ranging from 1 day to 2 weeks. Between 200 and 300 firefighters also experienced dizziness, headaches, and I cannot pronounce that word to save my life. Rhinitis. Rhinitis?
Rhinitis, yeah.
Rhinitis. In the days after the fire, but did not seek medical attention. Now, here's the thing on this, folks. This was back in a period where SCBAs weren't really mandatory to go in. We still had the leather lung smoke eaters. And with all the plastics and everything that they had in this building, no wonder the firefighters were experiencing dizziness and headaches and such. It
Right.
was all the toxins inside of them.
All the hydrocarbons from the gambling machines and the
Mm-hmm.
Keno boards and whatnot.
Now, the cause of the fire, it was contained to the casino area and the restaurant area, and the hotel was not equipped with a fire sprinkler system. Again, not equipped with a fire sprinkler system. The area with the most fire prevention was in the money counting area, not in individual rooms or on the casino floor.
I mean, you can't be burning them Benjamins.
Yeah, really. That's why I kind of said it jokingly that when I was talking to you the other day, it's all about the money. The county's fire chief had been concerned with that such a fire could occur, as older hotels built prior to 1979 were not required to have certain fire safety features. Nevada Governor Robert List said, quote, "You can't force people to bring hotels up to code. That didn't exist when they were built," end quote. For years after its opening, the resort had declined orders to install a second fire hose in one of the showrooms, and as of June of 1980, just 5 months prior to the fire, only 20% of the fire safety violations discovered 2 months earlier by inspectors had been corrected. I mean, to me, that's something you would want to jump on ASAP.
Yeah.
I mean, so what if you want to add 50 more tables in the casino? If you're gonna kill if you're gonna do something that's gonna cause your victims your hotel guests to die, then there's no point in it because they're not going to be there to use it.
Right.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So it's like I was telling you. The more I read into this, the more mind blown I got. But then again, at my age, it's not hard to do anymore. Let's see. The fire was caused by, like you said, an electrical ground fault inside a wall-mounted electrical receptacle. A refrigerated pastry display case was added after the original construction of the hotel to one of its restaurants, known as the deli. Unlike a modern-day display case, which would be totally self-contained, which is compressor installed in the bottom of the display case, this unit functioned like a walk-in cooler or central air conditioning system, with a pair of copper refrigerant lines connecting its evaporator to a condensing unit located outside of the building. When this setup was installed, the copper uh, line set was run through the same wall socket as the pre-existing electrical conduit and in physical contact with the said conduit. Excuse me, got a tickle in my throat. The fan-forced evaporator unit in the display case was not properly secured, and thus was able to vibrate constantly while in operation. These vibrations were carried down along a copper refrigerated line, causing the pipes to rub against the electrical conduit in the wall socket and make them vibrate as well. Galvanic corrosion occurred, in which the copper refrigerant pipes were in physical contact with the aluminum electrical conduit, causing the conduit to erode over time. Galvanic corrosion and vibration, as well as the jagged edges and stretched. I lost my place. I'm sorry.
Over time, but galvanic
There
corrosion.
it is. There,
Yeah.
I got it. As well as the jagged edges and stretched wires resulting from poor workmanship during the installation, eventually resulted in the electrical wires inside the conduit missing chunks of their plastic insulation. The conduit was rendered ungrounded. There was no separate ground wire. The metal conduit itself was designed to function as the ground, so the disintegration of the conduit rendered the system ungrounded. So this started from, you know, from the time it was put in, the workmanship, you know. I mean, I guess you could go all the way back and you know, point your finger at the guy that installed it as the, you know, as the cause of fire. Could that be considered, you know, and with the deaths that occurred at the fire, could he be held accountable for it?
Probably not, but it would ultimately land on the building inspector. I
Mm-hmm.
would think. I would think after the
See,
after the work was done.
yeah. Now, these now bare electrical conduits inside the ungrounded metal conduit began arcing, which ignited the fire. The fire reportedly smoldered for hours until it was found fresh oxygen and burst into a fireball that spread into the casino and was fed by other combustibles. Now, due to faulty smoke dampers within the ventilation ductwork, and why were they faulty? Well, I'll tell you, folks. Maintenance people there at the hotel lag bolted the dampers open. That's right, they bolted them open, so free flow, no way to shut it off. The toxic fumes circulated throughout the hotel's air conditioning system, accelerating the spread of the poisonous gases. The continued operation of the results ventilation system contributed to the fire's harmful effect. On the casino floor, there was no outlet for the smoke, which was spread into hotel tower by the ventilation system. Smoke rapidly filled the resort's telephone switchboard room, and operators there had only enough time to warn people on the casino floor. Hotel guests were not notified of the fire, as the switchboard operators had to evacuate. The elevator shafts were located above the restaurant and casino, which also helped the smoke to spread further.
All right. I'm gonna pop up a video. I've got some stuff that show that illustrates the how the smoke spread.
Okay.
Even though the fire raged within the casino and the first floor, little of it broke into the hotel tower. However, the smoke did. Large amounts of toxic fumes and smoke traveled through stairways, elevator shafts, seismic joints, and other openings in the construction. As a result, the hotel tower acted like a giant chimney, taking smoke and fumes to the topmost floors.
So if you look at the graphic here, you can see this is actually looking from the south side of the building, facing north, and it shows where the casino is, the direction that the fireball traveled. The red arrow illustrates the direction that the fireball traveled, and it shows how the smoke went from the outside, well, actually from the casino, and then it went up the towers into all the other areas there. So it shows, the outer smoke-proof wells, stairwells, the hotel tower, the 5th through the 25th floor guest rooms. It shows where everything is on that.
Gotcha. Yeah, it had the chimney effect, and it just went all over the place.
right? So
literally.
I'm assuming they didn't have fire doors on there because the stairwells are supposed to be pressurized to keep fire out.
Well, they did. That's the next part I was going to get into. The guests who had found that the fire doors in some stairwells locked automatically had propped them open for convenience.
Oh,
How,
okay.
yeah, so therefore this allowed more smoke to spread throughout the tower.
And
Okay,
let me see something. Then I got this other little clip as well about talking about the smoke while we're on that subject here.
okay.
We'll go ahead and play that.
Once the fire engulfed the casino, it caused the suspended ceiling to fall, revealing unprotected vertical openings that allowed the fumes to rise through the hotel tower. Even so, the disaster could have been avoided if hotel owners had installed sprinklers and a working fire alarm system.
All right, Jay, go ahead.
Okay, now there at this particular time, there's some uh, rule exceptions, for lack of better words. Uh, there were sprinklers located in the first two floors and on the top floor of the resort. The casino and restaurants were not protected by a fire sprinkler system because they were exempt from the rules requiring sprinklers in areas occupied 24 hours a day. A Clark County building inspector granted the exemption despite the opposition of the fire marshals. His reasoning was that a fire would be quickly noticed and occupants and contained with portable fire extinguishers. Now, the documentary that I watched said, yeah, they spotted the fire, but they had to leave the area to go get a fire extinguisher or a fire hose. There was none in the area. So, I mean, how far did this person have to travel for a fire extinguisher or a fire hose?
Right.
Evidently far enough for the deli and the casino to get going good. So, I mean, it, it just it just don't make any sense. But anyway, when the fire started in the deli restaurant, it was no longer open 24 hours a day. It was closed at the time of the fire, and although some sprinklers were in the resort, they were not located anywhere near the fire. A full sprinkler system would have cost $192,000 back then, but because of the cost, MGM installed only the minimum number of sprinklers required by the building code at the time of the resort's construction. So you can kind of start putting together and seeing, the differences in the fire code from back then versus today. So now in the aftermath, the resort was temporarily closed because of the fire. Duh. Much of the damage occurred in the casino area, which was charred by the fire. Did you get a picture of the interior of the casino?
Yeah, keep going. I'm gonna see if I can find it for you.
Okay. The hotel hallways and stairwells were stained by soot and smoke. Shortly after the fire, some people looted jewelry and blackened money from the resort. State gaming revenues were hurt by the MGM's closure, as the resort was one of the largest tax contributors to the local gaming industry. The county lost an estimated 1.7 million, or 5.75 million in today's times, because of the closure. And it was estimated that MGM Grand Hotel could face $1 billion loss because of the fire. After the fire, the MGM was rebuilt over the next 8 months at a cost of $50 million. It reopened in July of '81 with numerous fire safety features now in place, including the addition of fire sprinklers an automatic fire alarm system throughout the property, a 2-unit computer system, which one of them was a backup, that would notify the fire department once a sprinkler head popped off or a smoke alarm went off. This was provided by Johnson Controls to monitor hundreds of locations throughout the MGM, helping to prevent another fire. Now, this is kind of funny. A similar computer had also been installed at another MGM Grand Hotel in Reno, Nevada. The Las Vegas MGM now had more than 30,000 sprinklers, including 4 in most hotel rooms. Now, why it's kind of odd about that is the other resort had a fire not too long after the MGM Grand, and the fire alarm system worked like it was supposed to, and all from what I understood, basically all they did was vacuum up water from the sprinkler head. They didn't have to put any fire out. Now, the air conditioning system was heavily modified to prevent smoke from entering hotel rooms. The large exhaust fans were installed with the capability to rid the hotel of fumes in 10 minutes. Plastic pipes and wires were contributed to the fire were removed, and a 5-minute safety program hosted by none other than Gene Kelly. I know some of you younger folk don't know who he is, but Googling "Singing in the Rain" in both English and in Spanish was played on televisions in the motel rooms. Resort officials believe that the MGM was now the safest hotel in the world. Now, here's what I was talking about. A minor incident occurred 2 weeks after the reopening, and the new safety features worked as planned. Insulation material had begun to smolder because of a welder's torch, and this set off the automatic alarms. The original hotel tower, where most of the deaths occurred, continues to operate and is reported to be haunted by the fire victims. A second tower opened in 1981. The MGM Grand was sold in 1986 to Bally's Manufacturing, and which changed its name to Bally's Las Vegas. A new MGM Grand was opened in Las Vegas in 1993 at the northeast corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Tropicana Avenue, south of the original MGM. Bally's was again renamed in 2022 as the Horseshoe Las Vegas. Now we're going to get into a little bit of the code changes. Within a week of the fire, Governor List formed a commission to determine whether older hotels in the state should be required to adopt newer fire safety rules. Now, that should have been a no-brainer.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah. On February the 10th, 1981, just 81 days after the MGM fire, another fire broke out at the Las Vegas Hilton, which is right down the road from the MGM Grand, killing 8 people. Due to the 2 incidents, there was a major reformation of fire safety guidelines and codes. All buildings open to the public in Nevada were now required to have fire sprinklers, smoke detectors, in rooms and elevators, exit maps in all hotel rooms. This law went into effect in 1981 and made Nevada a leader in fire safety regulation. It took several years for all buildings to be within compliance. Now, don't think that that they got out of this with just a slap on the hand. More than 1,350 legal claims were filed against the MGM as a result of the fire. They were seeking all combined together were seeking more than $2 billion worth in damages. One attorney representing 3 local couples against MGM expressed concern about the reopening, saying that the resort still had defects which could prove harmful in the event of another fire. MGM made numerous settlement deals with victims in 1983, and a $76 million settlement between MGM Grand and the insurance companies was made in 1985. In 1998, there was $440,000 left over in the MGM victim settlement. They were required to give the remaining money to the Clark County victims of fires and burns.
Now, on that, circling back a minute to what you were saying before about the second fire that was 2 weeks later,
Uh huh.
didn't you say that there was a didn't you say that there was a common factor between those two?
Well, I don't know if you want to call it a common factor, conspiracy theory, or things that make you go, but the second fire at the Hilton was arson. Uh, Now, the gentleman that started this fire also worked at the MGM Grand at the time of that fire. Now, with today's technology and forensics and whatnot, uh, it could be possible to reopen the case and, you know, maybe prove what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, a similarity, for lack of better words,
Right.
or to that fire versus the MGM. Uh, but it was just one of those things that kind of raised your eyebrow and kind of type thing, you know.
Right.
Now, the first alarm assignment for this fire came in at 0716. Consisted of 4 engines, 2 rescues, 1 truck company, and 1 hose wagon. Second alarm come in at 0721, which was 4 more engines, an additional truck company, battalion chief, and another rescue. Now the third alarm assignment was shortly thereafter at 0722, and that brought in the outside units from Las Vegas Fire Department, Las Vegas Fire Rescue, and Henderson Fire Department. There was over 200 firefighters on the scene before it was uh, said and done. Now, I know this was back 1980, but the fire was called into the fire department. If you can find, if you listen to or watch the documentaries that I watched, and find right at the beginning, it'll have the dispatch. It was called in as a confirmed working fire in the deli of the restaurant. Now, for a confirmed working fire at a large resort like that, knowing how many, it's probably full. 4 engines, 2 rescues, 1 truck, and a hose wagon is just, to me, is kind of lax. They, in my opinion, and we all know what they say about opinions. Uh, for something like that, it should have, you should definitely get more apparatus on the first alarm. It's better to. This is one of those cases where it was needed and it was still sitting in the barn type thing.
Right.
I was always brought up. It's better to have it on the way and not need it than to need it and it be in the barn. Well,
And
this
that's
is
the way I was taught. You know, you can always
now.
cancel resources, but you can't um, You can always cancel resources, but you can't get them after you need them.
Yeah, exactly. And it don't seem like once you do call for them, it seems like it, you know, it might be 3 or 4 minutes, but it seems like it takes forever for them to get there.
Oh yeah, especially if you're the
Um,
only one on the scene.
oh yeah, John Wayne time. But this was the, like we stated before, this was the second worst hotel fire in U.S. history. Now, this actually, believe it or not, folks, ushered in a decade of deadly high-rise fires. I was going to get them and mention them, but there was a lot of them. And I mean, everybody's got internet access. You can look it up, but it was a bunch of them. Now, the first arriving unit, the captain from that unit, Captain Rex Smith, stated that the you see that they were met. Uh, they reached halfway across the casino and was met with fire rolling across the ceiling halfway down to the floor. The fire actually chased them back out of the building because they didn't have evidently, and it never said one way or the other. So I can only assume, and again, we know what assumed is. So I can only assume that they just went in to investigate. They didn't uh, pull any lines or get any kind of water supply or anything like that. Um, some of the people that were interviewed from the fire department said it was a flashover. Some said it was a backdraft. Me personally, I think it was a flashover. The fire flashed the casino and chased crews back out the way they came, like I just mentioned. Um, Now, this is kind of incredible to me. The fire traveled the casino, which was the length of 1.5 football fields, in less than 20 seconds.
That's fast.
Yes, sir. That is very, very fast. Um, Now, some of the people that were interviewed, some of the victims, all of them stated that there was no warning. The hotel staff made no effort to warn guests of the fire. Also, no fire alarms or public address system to notify them or anything. Uh, some of the guests even stated that when they come out of their rooms, uh, it was business as usual. No panic. Everybody was calm, and just like in any other day. Uh, Now, this is kind of uh, wild, amazing, whatever you want to consider it. The fire never made it to the second floor and was contained in only 90 minutes. But the smoke issue continued to rise, and they were there uh, pumping smoke out of the building and recovering bodies for the next 4 hours. Uh, like we said, the ladder trucks only reached up to the ninth floor, which is, you know, great for the people from 9 and below, but from 9 up, might want to start hoofing it down the steps if you can. But then again, the smoke, thanks to the maintenance people who lag bolted the damper doors open, uh, kind of made that impossible.
Now, didn't you say that people were having to go to the roof and be evacuated by helicopters as well?
Mm-hmm. They between the Air Force and the police department, and there was some civilian tour helicopters, I guess you could say. They picked about 1,000 people off of the roof.
Yeah, I even saw where I don't remember where I saw it, but in doing my part of the research, I saw where there was a window washer or some kind of a maintenance man, and he had an electric scaffold, and he had taken a couple down and then went back up and took 9 more people down before he had to go to see medic because of smoke inhalation.
And I think he said he was in the hospital for 4 days.
Yeah, but he had rescued like 9 people himself on this little scaffold machine that he used to
Yeah.
clean the windows.
Yeah. Now, 2 hours after the fire began, the firefighters finally made it up to the 19th floor and above, and that's where they found the majority of the dead and dying victims. There was pictures of the dead bodies that they found on the documentary, but I didn't think it would be appropriate or respectable to put them on here. So, but 1970 fire code didn't require sprinklers or fire alarms, and when the building was, they did some remodeling, and in today's fire code, that if you remodel any part of the building, you've got to bring the whole entire building up to
Current code.
exactly fire code of the day. Well, they had done that. They had done some remodeling in there, and they were in the process of remodeling when the fire occurred. But yet they weren't, because of this law, they weren't required. They were still quote unquote grandfathered. So they didn't have to do that.
So the MGM didn't meet the fire standards of 1980.
No.
Okay.
No. Now, when the codes were revised in 1978, hotel owners weren't, like I said, weren't obligated to bring the hotel up to date because of the grandfather clause, I'm assuming. So now the MGM, like we said, did not meet the fire safety standards in 1980. Now, Roy Parrish, Clark County Fire Chief, he said that the fire department had recommendation powers and suggestion powers to try to accomplish their goal. But to get that accomplished, the fire departments didn't have the power to get it accomplished. They could only make suggestions and recommendations, which, you know, good as I do, in one ear out the other. See you later, adios. Breaking windows on upper floors didn't help. It brought the highly toxic smoke into the rooms, which suffocated the guests in those rooms.
From
Some
the
of
outside. It brought the smoke in from the outside.
Exactly.
Not interior, but yeah.
Exactly. Feeding on combustible materials and finishes, gambling equipment, mirrored ceilings, tile, and plastic decorative trim fueled the toxins and the smoke that reached all the upper floors. Now, here's where it kind of gets interesting, and I really hope you got that clip.
Oh, I do.
Before the fire, hotel owners were told fire safety should be improved. Captain Carl Lowe stated that we made recommendations to the architects, both verbal and in writing, on the safety improvements. And when the hotel owners and managers were asked why they didn't make the recommended changes, they were caught on camera stating that they never heard of these requests. Chris, play that clip, please, sir.
All right.
When the codes were updated in 1978, the hotel was not required to upgrade their systems either. There was a fire alarm system, but it was outdated and disabled by the fire before it could be activated. 8 years before the disaster, in 1972, a suggestion was made by the Clark County Fire Department to install the fire system. But the owners rejected the proposal due to the cost. They refused to pay the price of $192,000, or 0.16% of the entire project investment.
We went ahead and made recommendations, whether it be verbal with those architects sitting with us at the table or in writing.
Why do you suppose the hotel didn't change?
I have no idea.
The public was furious with this revelation, but the hotel management simply denied that any such proposal was ever made.
Why wasn't this done?
I never heard of his request.
And there you have it.
That sounds like to me someone who is trying to cover his butt along with his boss's butt.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we all heard Captain Lowe say that it was verbal and writing. There's a paper trail. So, there you have it, folks. You heard it. Now, 3 months later, like we said, the Hilton caught fire, killing 8 people. Now here's the difference maker in the whole, in the Hilton versus the MGM. Yes, the fire auto extended up the outside of the building, but it never made it past the room right there where the window was at because of sprinklers. And because there was only 8 deaths because there was working fire alarms. So that's the difference maker. 8 versus 85. I mean, granted, it was a bad thing, bad time for, the 8 people, but still, it could have been a lot worse.
Much worse.
Now, this is kind of interesting to me. At the time of the MGM Grand Fire, there was no kind of uniform fire code throughout the United States. This was in 1980, okay? In 2000, 20 years later, the ICC had completed a series of model codes known as the International Codes. Among the new ICC codes were the International Building Codes, which covers fire prevention as pertaining to the construction and design of new buildings. The International Fire Codes, which addresses resolution of fire hazards in existing buildings and installation and testing, plus maintenance of the fire prevention in newer and existing buildings, just as the International Building Codes is a merger of the provisions of the National Building Codes, Standard Building Codes, and the Uniform Fire Codes. The International Fire Code is a merger of the provisions of the National Fire Prevention Code and the Standard Fire Prevention Code and Uniform Fire Code. In other words, folks, up until the year 2000, there was no resemblance of a uniform set of fire codes for commercial or industrial structures in the United States. In 2000, that's when everyone come together and wrote out all these codes and standards. So now they have something to work with, and so this tragedy won't happen again.
Huh. Okay. That's interesting.
But it took them 20 years though. This is something that should have been done, a long time ago.
The next day.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
Now,
like you said, proactive or reactive instead of proactive.
exactly. Now, especially these days, with the more synthetic stuff being produced, and and the different materials used, different types of ethyl methyl bad shit that's being pumped out in the smoke. It's it should have something should have been done long before the year 2000.
Oh, different building materials. Buildings burn faster than they used to,
Exactly, and hotter.
and hotter. Yeah.
So, well, Chris, we got any questions from anyone listening, or?
Have not had any legitimate comments tonight. I had somebody spam me earlier, but it was a spam comment.
Uh-huh. Okay. No spammers allowed.
But we do have three viewers tonight, which is good. One on
Nice.
YouTube, one on YouTube, one on Facebook, and one on Twitch.
We got them covered. So
One for one.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everybody who is watching tonight. It's
Absolutely.
So we do have a website. I'm going to throw the QR code up there so you guys can check out our website. And the website is www.hostjockeys.unite.com. And you can go there and check out information about our show. Or if you have your cell phone handy, click on the QR code and it'll take you there.
Yep.
And
we also have a QR code where you can buy us a cup of coffee.
Codes were updated in 1978. The hotel was not required to upgrade their systems either.
Okay, there it is.
That's it. The money donated to us through this helps to go improve the show, new equipment, things like that. So if you feel free, buy us a cup of coffee.
Yeah, because hosting costs alone for the show are pretty high as far as like for the servers we need and to basically put the stuff on the air. It's fairly expensive, and the time that's put into it, a lot of the preparation and things like that. So any little bit, that you would like to donate would definitely be appreciated and helpful.
And like and subscribe, smash that like button. That helps us out a lot too.
So Jay, you got anything else for us tonight?
That's about it on my part. Did you get the picture that I sent you about an hour before the show?
Probably not.
Well, it was a picture of a fire engine, an ambulance, and a police car. And at the fire truck it said, "We fight the fire." Ambulance said, "We treat the patients." And the cop car says, "We block the hydrants and the access roads so nothing can get done."
That sounds about right.
Well,
So
no offense to anybody in law enforcement that is listening.
we love you.
We love you.
We respect you, and we need you.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, unless you got something else, that's going to do it on my part.
All right. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and leave you with this little ballad that I found, and it kind of sums up the whole show tonight, pretty much to a T. So this is the Ballad of the MGM Fire. Here is the Ballad of the MGM Grand Hotel Fire, a horrible event at the MGM Hotel in Great Las Vegas, where anything will sell. Gambling and money is all they care about. It is a city where everyone smiles and no one thinks to pout. On November 21st, the year was 1980. A wire was out of place. The construction was lazy. 5,000 people were there. 86 of them died. If someone would have checked the wires, they would all still be alive. 600 were injured among the terrible fire, all because of one tiny little wire. The fire started blazing shortly after 7. If the sprinkler system worked, those people wouldn't be in heaven. The smoke filled up throughout the halls. The screams of the dying echoed in between the walls. A fire alarm never sounded. There was no way to stop the blaze. The fire soon spread throughout the hotel, where people stared in the gaze. MGM refused to pay for the $192,000 sprinkler system. Obviously, the construction workers didn't have very complex wisdom. Here is